Let me first give the mic to my partners and ask them to give us a quick introduction from left to right. Maxim, please.
Okay, thanks everyone for joining. My name is Maxim Denizhenko. I'm a business development lead at the enterprise blockchain security team at Kaspersky. And nowadays we see that new technologies coming to our life faster and faster every day. Just recently, maybe yesterday or day before yesterday, Amazon introduced new smart devices of theirs. Or, for example, another example, industrial internet-connected devices penetrate factory floors, gathering huge amounts of information, data, which are being transmitted via 5th generation communication channels and processed by the new generation of databases called distributed ledgers. How to deal with this all, how to use them best to the advantage of your companies and do it securely, this is what I'm going to explain in my presentation.
Thanks a lot. Attila?
Hello everyone, my name is Attila Paksi, and last year I was here representing Gemalto. This year I'm here representing THALES, but this is only because we have merged since then. So we have a growing portfolio now. What I will be talking about is mostly encryption and key management, even though THALES is also an important player on the field of authentication and access management. As we will also discuss the news, we see that encryption is an upcoming thing. We see encryption gaining more and more use cases. And what we see is there is no real strategy behind that. Most of the customers have to deal with the different encryption methods and have to deal with the different encryption locations. So this is what we are targeting, and this is what I will be talking about in my presentation.
Thanks, Attila. Uria.
Hi, everyone. My name is Uria Ankorion. I represent Checkmarx. There's a company that deals with application security and gives a suite of services for providing application security. Now, I've chanced to meet a lot of people here, and I've seen that some people are more knowledgeable in this area, some are a bit less knowledgeable. So my presentation will deal in a sort of general way about the importance of application security, and then I will try in 20 minutes to quickly browse the different services that exist today, because I've got a lot of people coming up and saying which one should we choose and how should we deal with it. So I will try and touch on that, and also try and touch on which of these services should I take, because there's quite a lot of them. So I hope in 20 minutes we'll be able to touch on as much as possible of that.
Thanks, Uria. And I'm Péter, Rónaszéki, representing FORTIX Consulting, as well as the KIBEV, the Voluntary Cyber Defense Collaboration for Hungary, and of course ISOCA Budapest chapter. Okay, let's then jump into the first cyber news, which is the Oklahoma Pension Fund cyber attack. And just let me read 2 sentences of the newspaper, from the newspaper. The Federal Bureau of Investigation is probing the cyber theft of $4.2 million from the Oklahoma Law Enforcement Retirement System, the pension fund for highway troopers, state agents, park rangers, and other officers. The one comment that we can also read on this is that the Oklahoma hack is the latest in the series of the cyber breaches that shows how exposed across the United States are the online crime. Okay, so how does this relate to your profession? For example, the blockchain technology. How can you relate that to? How can we somehow make this world a more secure environment if we read these cybersecurity problems each and every day?
The blockchain subject is a hype topic nowadays. It's been in everybody's mouth for years now. Unfortunately, some people treat blockchain as a magic pill to every security issues. If I put something on blockchain, it means it will be there forever and nobody will be able to touch it. Well, if nobody will anyone can touch it, it's useless. You can't touch it. You can't use it. So there are ways to how people communicate with the data, what applications do they use, and what interfaces are exposed to outer world. And actually applications, user applications and interfaces are still the same. So basically, when it relates to blockchain, risks are the same as we currently have in our everyday business practice. So blockchain can streamline your business processes. It can provide trust for the data that it contains. And you can introduce new level of trust between your partners, business partners. But when it concerns to cybersecurity, you have to take care of it. Don't put it like, don't accept everything for granted with blockchain.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we see these things coming up every once in a while, and even more frequently than before. And what I see is that we have, of course, some companies, financial institutions who do know what they are about to do. They have a strict regulation, and they do take care about their data. And on the other hand, we see a lot of companies who have similar regulations on them, and I'm not just talking about GDPR, and they do handle a lot of personal and very sensitive data, and yet they do not care enough about protecting those data. We saw similar cases. There was no encryption whatsoever. There was senators asking the people and people losing their job on this, and they just couldn't answer why, in the first place, they didn't apply any proper protection to their data. And I think this is also a question of mindset of the people. So they have to see what can come. It's not a question when you will be breached. It's a question when you will acknowledge that you will eventually be breached, and you have to protect these data somehow. So that's all about the mindset of the people sitting in these companies, and that's how these could be potentially avoided.
One quick addition before giving the mic to Uria. Geoffrey Buswick, who is an analyst from Standard & Poor's, said that your ability to pay debt is based on trust. If the trust isn't there, it is going to be hard for everyone. And if you have your head in the sand when it comes to cybersecurity, we're going to look at that for our rating. That's again said by Standard & Poor's. So just a quick addition to that.
Yeah, I agree with that completely. And I would also like to say that, like we said, like Maxim said, the cryptocurrencies and blockchain, wonderful technology in its own right, that's for sure. But then again, the tools that they use today, because of the regulations, because we do not have these things legislated, that also poses quite a lot of threat. And where people keep their money in banks, at least there we have a lot of regulations in place and a lot of security measures. But in this case, we've seen also a lot of breaches coming out from powerhouses, from places where we can trade coins and such like that. And we've seen these errors, and a lot of them are coming from networking issues, but a lot of them are also coming from application issues. So it's pretty much like it was said here. The mindset has to be about security and when are we going to be breached, understanding that it will happen, not that it can happen, it has to happen unless we take the proper measures. So that's something to keep in mind.
Okay, so having said that, thanks. Most probably our pension fund is in good hands. So let's move on to the next topic, which is kind of a GDPR related, already mentioned on the stage, that British Airways faces a record 183 million British pound fine for a data breach that was actually pretty much recently in the news. Quick question about somehow outside of the aviation industry. What do we think about their internal information security, cyber security, and even data privacy?
I think aviation service providers should have, and I think they have, indeed, one of the, supposed to have, anyway, one of the strongest security policies and because it relates to all kinds of security, not only cyber security but also physical security. There is an example of other companies, aviation companies, who introduced actually payments with blockchain technology, and they even are proud of it and boasting about how many funds they processed on the blockchain distributed ledger with their partners. But private data or payment credentials are stored somewhere at a place that should be secured as much as possible, as strong as possible. And I'm honestly even surprised that British Airways actually admitted the case. Thanks to our enforced security points in the European Union.
Yeah, I think this is yet another case. Obviously, we have GDPR, and obviously this was raised, and obviously there could be or should be a big fine. But it all comes down again to how these things are handled from the company in terms of importance. Because a fine is one thing, they have to pay it, but you know, the loss of reputation is there for years, I would say. The cost of remediation is a lot. I will show in my presentation, we have a research done, and the average cost for such a breach is $3.5 million US. 3.5, and this is just the direct cost, not even counting with the loss of customers and so on and so forth. So I agree. I mean, really, it has to be emphasized that GDPR and any regulation is one thing, but it's your business interest to protect your data.
Well, by the way, here we are not talking about GDPR only, but also data security standard called PCI DSS, since credit card details, including the 3-digit CVV code, has also been stolen. So. Yeah, GDPR and PCI DSS, which is also a kind of a strict information security standard, was kind of breached. So, yeah, Uria?
Well, I have a feeling that everything I say is scary at this point. I'm actually, to be honest, even less worried about GDPR issues than I am about safety issues. Just as an example, since we're talking aviation, then there's a famous hacker, I won't name him, who's proven that he can patch and control the plane's engines by the USB slot that he has next to his screen on his plane seat. So it's quite scary indeed. And indeed, like you said, there's I represent the application security aspect of things, and it's unbelievably easy to gain this kind of insight, to gain information from various points inside the applications themselves. So yeah, this is a very important topic, but again, anything I say at this point will just be scary.
Yeah, but if we, and we have still one minute, so if we are at the topic at application security, then what do you think? How can we kind of improve that somehow behavior of the developers to really start building secure codes?
Well, I hope I'll touch more on that on my presentation because time won't be enough, but it's not just about teaching them specific tricks. This is a complete mindset thing. It's all about how when they come to code something from the design stage, they have to think secure. They need to know the dangers. They need to know how these things are being manipulated. They need to know not just the technical things about how to write a secure code, but they actually need to understand the implications as well. So this is a complete mind shift for the developer community. There are tools in place. I'll try and touch on some of them in my presentation, but yeah, it's a longer talk.
My question was kind of intentional, so thanks a lot, gentlemen. So, and I guess the stage is yours, Uria. Thank you.
I think it's Maxim's first, I think.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.